Where's Henry? I've got more people coming in. Fine. It's not 7 o'clock yet. Not quite in time. No. Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to my extraordinary meeting, council meeting. We have one motion on the agenda, and it's my motion, which is to put to councillors that we consider suspending the introduction of overnight parking in Oswestry from 6 p.m. So we're suspending that pending a review of all aspects, and I will go into the motion in a little bit more detail in a minute, but that's the motion that I will be putting to councillors this evening. Okay, we have the only other item on the agenda that we have in reality is the public participation session. So that's an opportunity again to listen to members of the public, anybody that's in the room, and there's lots of you, which is wonderful, and I'm very grateful to see you all. What I will say is that given that we have discussed this on 2 previous occasions, I will only be asking for speakers from people that have not spoken before on the matter, because I want to be able to allow an opportunity for everybody else to speak. So if you have spoken before, then I will just ask that we allow somebody else to speak instead this evening. I will ensure that we get a good spread, and that if you are kind of representing a group, that one of you talks for that group, if that's all right, from a fairness point of view, and some of you are standing, so I want to make sure that this is as comfortable as possible. Okay, so we initially normally would have 15 minutes as part of a public participation session, but I'm going to suggest to councillors that we extend that to 20 minutes to allow people 2 minutes per person to be able to get through that public participation session before we discuss the motion itself. Okay, so I'm going to move from my right hand side, unless told otherwise, from Aaron, and ask who would like to speak within the public participation session. Thank you, sir. So if I can ask you to go to the mic and put the mic on with the right hand button. If I can just ask you to introduce yourself, and if you're representing a group or an organisation, just to let us know that one, and you have 2 minutes.
My name's Brian Mayo. I'm not a representative of anyone other than what I think is fair play. The issue that for me is that clearly people put this forward in the assumption that more money will be generated for the council. There's a thing that worries me always in business called the law of unintended consequences. If the increased fees that are being charged affect the town of Oswestry in the evening so that pub trade falls, restaurant trade falls, then we will not make more money for Oswestry, we will make less. We could lose rates from restaurants that closed. So my concern is simply to ensure that the council considers the pros and cons, and in particular the consequences that might happen from this action, and that it may not produce the benefits that are projected. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh.
Okay.
It was very good. Basically, I was saying that the danger is of an unintended consequence, that in thinking we're making more money from increasing parking fees overnight, we make less because we damage the trade in Oswestry, we damage restaurants, pubs and other facilities. So the council need to consider the pros and the cons, and I think there may be more cons than pros.
Thank you. I think I just ask people if you just don't get quite so close to the speaker. I think that possibly helps, but maybe standing also helps as well to make sure you can all hear. So moving round the room again. With this gentleman. Feel free to stand if that's more comfortable. Yeah. If you want to address people, that's fine.
My name's Gemma Tudor. I live just on the side of Holts Market there, and the reason I'm here is to say that I very much disagree with bringing charges in for overnight parking. because I use it every single night. And if you were to bring him in, I'd have to suddenly find, if it's £1 a night, even though it's a small amount, I'd suddenly have to find £350 extra a year on top of the council tax rise that's happening. So it's not just people around here that will be affected, but also people by the big Oswestry car park as well.
Okay, thank you, Gemma.
That's all.
I appreciate that.
So I'm Jimmy Haynes from the newly opened Ebro project. Kind of speaking on a selfish term, but also for all the other businesses that operate in the nighttime. Nighttime economy's kind of bum anyway. People are struggling. People going to pubs, as you said, restaurants are hard. From a more selfish point of view, myself and Alan have just spent £1.2 million on a building that was never ever going to be built again, ever. Costing the council circa 15 grand a month just to keep it open. Well, not even open, but to keep it empty. We're taking it on and we will have a direct hit. So from a strictly selfish point of view, but if you want to pop in for a pint, you want to pop in for a takeaway, you've got a nail appointment at night, you're just not going to do it. Or what you will do is you'll park out of town, in front of someone's driveway, to walk in, it will cause chaos. For very little benefit I can see, because the trickle-down effect just won't work. People just drive people away out of town.
Okay, thank you for that, Jimmy. I appreciate that. Okay, perfect, okay. You're good. Anybody on the back row? Do you want to grab her? If you could just explain who you are, that would be amazing.
I'm Julie Morris. I live in Whittington. I come to quite a lot of meetings in Oswestry, especially at the Memorial Hall. It's been really refurbished quite recently, and it's wonderful. And I know of 2 groups now that are planning to close because people cannot afford the parking from 6 till 8 and from 8 till when we finish at 9:30. Also, I come to the Atfield Theatre, which is another thing that I love coming to, but will I be able to afford to pay for the tickets and for the car parking on top? And as everybody else said, it's coming for a drink, going to Prezzo, going to all sorts of different places in the evening, and we're all going to stay at home. And Oswestry is bad now, but it's going to get worse. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving across the back row, is there anybody else on the back row that hasn't spoken before? I'm going to go, I will get to you, don't worry. Yourself, sir, if you want to come to the corner, that would be brilliant. Or, unless you want to go there, whichever you feel comfortable.
We could get them lined up, get the next one in position. Speed us up.
My name's Michael Clark, and I'm here tonight representing the Oswestry Olympians Athletics Club. On a Monday evening in the winter time, our club runs actually start from the central car park. We have 60 to 80 people. Not everyone needs to drive, but a lot of our members are from out of town, and they come. We start our runs there. If they're charged for car parking, we meet at 6:30, run for an hour or so. We'll have to move where we do our club runs.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Moving round. Anybody on the back row? You're all good? Okay, middle. There you go, sir.
I've got a question I want to ask you, and the question is quite simple.
Can I just ask you to introduce yourself first?
Sorry?
Can I just ask you to introduce yourself? That's all. So that,
My name's John Davis. I play a bit of
Perfect.
bridge and do a bit of other
thank
stuff.
you, John.
I want to know how much the council thinks they're going to make by implementing this overnight charge.
Okay.
After they pay, obviously you've got to implement it. You might have somebody going around checking on tickets and stuff like that, which is an extra cost for manpower. So how much are you envisaging making in a year by introducing this extra charge?
Okay.
Have you got that number?
We're not here to answer questions. We're
Well,
literally here to listen to
Why
you.
not?
We're not. We're here to listen to you.
What's the point in having this meeting and you can't answer our questions?
Yeah, I mean, how much are you going to make?
It's all being here and you're not answering us. That's why we come here for you to answer.
I presume you've done some sort of feasibility study, and at the end of it, you come up and say, right, this is making us money. I want to know how much, please.
Okay.
You must have costed you.
Yes.
So the intention of the motion tonight, which I will be putting forward to councillors, is that we do a period of consultation and review. And at the end of that period, I will happily
So you're not
absolutely
going to answer
share
my
that
question,
information.
no? How many people you think use that car park, 3 car parks in town on a daily basis?
Well, we've got an overall budget for the.
I'm not talking about that. I'm asking you, how many people use the main car park on a daily basis in Oswald Street?
I don't have those figures to
Don't know.
hand. Well, we do know, but I haven't got those figures to hand this evening.
Have a guess.
Come on.
Have a guess.
This is what the meeting's about.
My proposal was, instead of charging overnight parking and all the cost involved with it, you stick an extra 10 pence on the parking in town, which in my opinion would more than cover what you're going to raise if you're going to raise anything by overnight parking. And that's what all I've got to say.
Thank you.
And the figures, if you had the figures, it would be nice to know how much you propose to make.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I can't see you. You're very welcome to stand, just so you can be heard.
Thank you.
And if you could just introduce yourself. that'd
My
be great.
name's Jane O'Brien.
Ah, Jane, nice to meet you.
Hello. Going back to what is always considered are the unintended consequences of such a course of action. Many of our visitors from the outlying villages gravitate into Oswestry to pursue their pastimes or to partake in hospitality. They rely on this. But these diversions themselves also come at a price. Couple those with fuel charges, plus an extra steep parking element, and I would expect the majority of people to walk away. The beating heart of Oswestry will surely die a death in commercial terms. Hospitality, already struggling, clubs and societies will simply dissolve. Inevitably, Oswestry, once so pivotal, will become a ghost town in the evenings. Quite a sizable proportion of our population in and around Oswestry are active pensioners. Many scrape by on low incomes. If they happen to live alone and have an extra levy imposed upon them, well then these people could perhaps remain captive at home. Ironically, on Saturday the 14th of February, I noted a brief paragraph of news from Ed Davey, in which he was enthusiastically promoting hobbies and pastimes to be crucial in preventing loneliness and depression. Obviously, we will now need to factor in the mental health of our solitary constituents who could well be deprived of their enjoyable pursuits. There already appears to be a contradiction in terms here. Primarily, when those who most need a change of scene are unable to subsidise their modest recreational pleasures. On behalf of all pensioners and those who strive valiantly to meet their costs, I would urge the Council to reconsider this potentially destructive parking hike.
Thank you, Jane. I think we will go on to the motion in a minute. Oh,
I'd like to speak, please.
of course you
Thank
can.
you.
Absolutely.
Nicola Haywood. I'm an accountant. I'm very concerned about the lack of business case here. You can't tell us what the costs are. We don't know what the costs are to enforce it. We don't know what the benefits are. What revenues are you going to get in? Are they going to outweigh the costs, which are very highly unlikely because you'll just drive people away from the town centre. You've not looked at the impact on people's lives, have you? You've not looked at the impact of people's livelihoods. You know, that car park is potentially a lifeline to people to use to get out for, you know, social interaction, as you all know. And I just feel that you're just using the car park as a balancing line in your budget, and you can't substantiate any of the numbers, which are really poor, and you do not run a business on that basis. I just feel you're trying to drive people away from using the car park so you can go and sell it, and then you can blame the residents because we didn't use the car park, that we couldn't afford to use the car park. You know, but then you're going to sell it and build on it and blame the residents for not using it. But your price is out.
Okay. Jane, if you wanted to come again. Yeah, of course you can. Yep, got a few more minutes.
So I do believe we have a proposal to elect Oswestry as a possible candidate to become a town of culture. This is comical, considering that all culture is likely to collapse in the wake of evening parking fees. For who will come to visit at such a price? There will be few who can afford to promote these ventures. Oswestry is by no means a rich town, unlike Shrewsbury, who, incidentally, eventually saw sense and retracted on evening parking fees as it was deemed detrimental to the town's revenues. I would earnestly impel our councillors to think very hard about imposing this levy on an already overtaxed community. I think this penny-pinching exercise would not be worth the ill feeling it could leave in its wake. It most certainly would not support the council's mantra of attempting to become a town of culture. My belief is that it would probably not translate into the cost-effective equation you might expect, which would be very likely to strangulate growth and work against your applaudable desire of aiming high in the service of promoting Oswestry. One last little paragraph. Oswestry Town is a warm-hearted and spirited community with a proud heritage. It is incrementally transforming itself after the lonely ravages of COVID. And now, sadly, just as positive shoots are slowly emerging, the council is inclined to deliver a shattering retrograde blow. People are rightly indignant.
Okay. Unless there is any other members of the public, of course. There would be if there was time, but as I explained to... You do. You're absolutely right. Happy to do so. I was just about to check whether there's anybody else, that's all, because my priority is the people in the room. So is there anybody else in the room? Oh, that's fine. Bear with me 2 seconds then, and I will just find his email. There we go. Okay. So, email received by me on Tuesday at 9:06. Dear Madam Mayor, I'm writing in a personal capacity as a former town councillor and long-standing resident of Oswestry to formally register my objection to the recent 20% increase in parking charges and the reintroduction of overnight parking fees. Although I'm unable to attend the forthcoming extraordinary meeting due to prior commitments, I feel strongly that my concerns should be placed on record. Oswestry is a rural market town where access to the town centre is heavily dependent on car use. A 20% rise in charges alongside the return of overnight fees places yet another financial burden on residents, workers and local businesses at a time when many are already struggling with rising costs. I'm particularly concerned about the impact on the town's evening and nighttime economy. Hospitality venues, community events and town centre businesses rely on affordable and accessible parking to attract customers. Additional overnight parking charges risk discouraging visitors, reducing footfall and undermining efforts to support local trade. There are also practical implications. Increased charges are likely to push more vehicles onto surrounding residential streets, creating congestion, access issues and frustration for residents. This would merely displace the project problem rather than solve it. More importantly, decisions of this magnitude should follow meaningful consultation with residents and businesses. The strength of feeling expressed locally demonstrates that many do not believe this has taken place to an adequate degree. I urge the Council to reconsider these measures, pause their implementation and engage properly with the community before further damage is done. So I think he accurately reflects much of what all of you have said this evening. Okay. Just last opportunity for 1 minute. Anybody else that would like to speak? So our car parking income is actually in any of our council papers that are on the website. So we do look at our car parking figures on a kind of bi-monthly basis. So if you were to go onto the Town Council website and look at previous minutes, you'll find our income from car parking charges by different car parks.
But I'm happy to the
Exactly.
so I'm happy to provide the figures for the gentleman if he gives me his email address at the end of the.
Could you also give me the figures on how many people are expecting to use that parking facility from 6 in the evening and 8 o'clock at night? And how is it going to be how's it being enforced?
I think I'm going to move on to the motion because the motion might explain some of that, if that's all right, sir. And I'm not putting you off, but the motion should explain, and I should give you a bit of information as well. So if you can bear with me a minute, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I do want to carry on. So our next item is apologies for absence.
So apologies for absence from Councillors Roberts, Work, Councillor Kerr, Personal, Councillor Johnson, Personal, and Councillor Walker, Work.
Move on to item 2B, disclosure of councillors' interests of any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. I'm going to move from my right-hand side around to see if there's any declarations of interest. No, okay. So, in order to discuss my motion, we need to suspend standing orders because our current standing orders would normally prevent us from discussing something that has been discussed within a certain time period. So, I want you to consider suspending standing orders 7A and 7B to allow consideration of the matter previously disposed of.
I second. Grace Goodlad, I second that motion to suspend standing orders, please, to suspend the 6-month rule.
Okay, so councillors, all those in favour of suspending standing orders, please. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so let me get you on the right screen. There with you, councillors, and members of the public. Aaron, have you got it?
No, you haven't sent it to me.
I did.
I don't think you sent it to me.
I was all set up, and
Did you have it open?
I did. There we go. Just let it in with my copy and then try and okay. Apologies, everybody. We got there in the end. Right. So, in light of feedback from the public and from community organisations and from every single one of you in the room, my motion is that council are asked to consider suspending the introduction of overnight parking from 6 p.m. to allow for the issues raised tonight and from all of my emails and from emails that Aaron's had to be considered alongside a wider review of tariffs. And I ask that the matter is brought back to council after 6 months, which is standard practice when we are reviewing things. So my motion is asking councillors in the room to consider suspending the introduction of overnight parking from 6 o'clock onwards to allow us time for a review period, for a consultation period, for an opportunity for us to listen to you all in a constructive manner. And that review period will look at implementation, will look at enforcement, that review will look at what we are expecting to happen and what won't happen, and all of those things put together, and that's what that review is there for. Listening to you tonight, that feels like exactly what is an appropriate thing to do. And it might be in 6 months' time we make a different decision or we make another decision. But at this point in time, we are absolutely, my motion is that we are absolutely suspending that decision this evening from 6 o'clock onwards. And in other words, if councillors tonight agree that suspension, nothing changes. We stop charging at 6 o'clock at night and we start charging again at 8 a.m. the next morning. Okay? So that's my motion, and I'm hoping that explains to you a little bit about what I said to you a minute ago. Bear with me.
Have you got a seconder for that?
So that's my motion. Do I have a seconder? Jay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd like to second. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, Jay, councillor. Sorry, sometimes we're less formal and sometimes we're more formal, aren't we? So thank you, Jay. So I've got a motion on the table to say that. I've got a seconder. I'm going to go to the vote, quite frankly, councillors. So all those in favour of suspending the introduction of overnight parking from 6 o'clock, councillors, please vote. All those in favour? We've got a unanimous vote. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Thank you for your voice. When I said we can't answer you, it's simply that we don't have the capacity to answer all of your questions at this point in time. But we do want you to, as Jane did, email in, call us and talk to us. And this review period is your opportunity to help us understand how it impacts you and how it impacts your businesses and your car parking when you live so close, and all those things that are really important to you. It's really important for me that we listen to you, and this is this opportunity. We are a council that should be here to listen. We don't always get it right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have suspended this. So no parking charges after 6 o'clock of an evening. And we will do a proper review, a proper consultation, and an opportunity for you all to input into that. And we will be in touch. If you do want to leave your email address or telephone number as a contact so that you can get some information from us, then that's absolutely fine. And that's what Aaron and Henry are here for as well. So I think, yeah.
Close the meeting.
Thank you all for your feedback, for your emails, for your concerns raised, for your points of view. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Close the meeting.